If there's one good thing that COVID-19 helped spread, is remote work. Some companies decided to limit it to just few days at home per week, while others decided to shift to full remote work altogether. In the past years, this has made possible for more and more people to live in a country while working for another country, often on the other side of the world. And for many professionals in the United States, Italy has always been on top of their wish list. They love the culture, the lifestyle, not to mention the possibility to go explore all the rest of Europe from Italy. But with their dream, of course, also comes along a practical question. Can I work remotely in Italy for a US company? The answer, as you can imagine, is not a simple yes or not, and that's exactly why this guide is here for. To clear up the confusion around this topic and to really understand what it takes to work remotely in Italy for a US company, from visas to taxes and everything in between. Ciao a tutti and welcome back to the Italian for a While channel, your go-to destination for all things Italy. If you haven't done it yet, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more tips and tricks on how to make the most out of your experience in Italy. And now, back to today's topic. Today, we'll talk about what it really means to be living in Italy while working for a company in the United States. Can you do it? How to do it legally? What are the rules to follow? And what does it imply? We'll cover every aspect to be taken into consideration step by step, so that you can understand whether this is a realistic option for you. So, first of all, let me start giving you the short answer. Yes, you can work in Italy for a US company. But of course, it's not as simple as simply booking a flight and just logging in once you're arriving in Italy. If you're going to stay in Italy for more than a short vacation, you're going to need to take into consideration several aspects, like visa, residency, taxes, and even how your employer is going to handle your payroll. So now let's break everything down. The very first important question to answer is, what status do you need to be in Italy and work legally? To live in Italy and be able to keep your US job, indeed, the first thing to do is to understand your immigration status matter. If, for example, you enter Italy with a tourist visa, so for a maximum of 90 days within a 180-day period, you are not authorized to work in Italy, remotely or otherwise. This is because this type of visa in particular only covers tourism, business meetings and personal visits, and hence does not authorize you to work while you're in Italy. This has been made very clear by the Italian government itself. So, if you want to work from Italy, what are your options? Let's see them together. Option number 1, the Digital Nomad Visa. It was introduced in 2024 for highly skilled non-European citizens, working remotely for foreign companies or as self-employed professionals. Please note, with non-European citizens, we refer to all those people who do not have citizenship of any European country, of the European Economic Area, or of Switzerland. To get it, you should be able to submit proof of sufficient income and a valid health insurance, as well as other documents. Option 2, the self-employment visa, or Type D visa for self-employment. You can apply for this type of visa if you plan to work in Italy as an independent contractor. To operate, then you'll need to register for a partita IVA, the Italian VAT number, and invoice your client or employer directly, as well as pay Italian taxes and social security contributions. An important note here. Once you apply for a long-stay visa, you then usually also have to apply for the permesso di soggiorno, so your residence permit, within 8 working days from your arrival in Italy. We'll talk about these later on in the frequently asked questions. Option number 3. If you do have a European Union, European Economic Area or Switzerland passport, if this is your case, you benefit from freedom of movement. So you don't need a visa to live and work in Italy, but you still must register residency and handle taxes. And lastly, option 4, other visa types, such as the student visa. These might allow work under specific conditions, but are not tailored for full remote working for a US company. Okay. Now that we've seen together what kinds of visas would allow you to work in Italy, let's see together another very important aspect to be taken into consideration, which is figuring out your legal status. Generally speaking, while working in Italy for a US company, you have 2 options: remaining a US-based employee or switching to contractor status. The difference is critical because your legal status, so employee or contractor, changes lots of aspects. Your visa requirement, your tax implication, your employer risks, your benefits, and other things. So now, let's break the two options down together. Option 1. You remain a US employee, but working from Italy. Since you'll be physically working in Italy, you need the right visa. As we've seen, the Digital Nomad one is the most natural fit. Just like all foreign companies, a US company with an employee working long-term from Italy might need to register for Italian payroll. In some cases, your presence in Italy may also trigger a permanent establishment risk, especially if you sign contracts or generate Italian-sourced revenue. A little disclaimer for you. A permanent establishment roughly means that because of your physical presence in Italy, working for a US company, that company might be seen by the Italian government as doing business in Italy, and thus subject to Italian corporate tax and regulations. How do most employers deal with this permanent establishment risk? Well, most of them choose to use the employer of record, EOR, to stay compliant with Italian regulations. The employer of record is a third-party company that legally hires your employee on behalf of your company while being in Italy, handling all the local compliances, the taxes, the benefits, etc. Other companies might just decide to limit the authority and the activities of the employer in Italy to avoid any risk. Option number 2. You become an independent contractor. To do so, you'll have to register a partita IVA and operate as a libero professionista. You'll have to invoice your US employers or clients directly and pay Italian taxes and social security contributions yourself. This removes all the payroll burden and the permanent establishment risk for the US company. However, you lose all traditional employee benefits like healthcare coverage, any eventual retirement contribution, and paid time off. How to protect yourself if you pick this option? Get a written contract that clearly defines deliverables, payment terms, both in US dollars and euros, intellectual property rights, data security, and so on. Also, it is important to notice that in this case, your tax obligations change. If you meet certain revenue thresholds, in Italy, you'll be under what is called the regime forfettario. We'll get back to this in a bit. Now, once you've figured out your visa and work set up, the other very important aspect to take into consideration is taxation. This is a very important aspect, and it's often where digital nomad and remote workers get caught off guard. Because Italy doesn't just care about your employer's location, they also care about where you are living and working. So even if your employer is abroad, if you are physically working in Italy, you'll trigger Italian regulations. So, first of all, let's see together, when do you become a tax resident in Italy? As a rule of thumb, you become a tax resident if you spend more than 183 days in Italy during the calendar year. However, recent regulations made these even stricter by also counting partial days of presence toward the 183-day threshold. Also, it is important to notice that if your center of vital interest, so where your home, family, or main economic ties are, shifts to Italy, you'll be treated as a tax resident even before reaching the 183 days. Once you're considered a tax resident in Italy, the country will tax your worldwide income and not just what you earn in Italy. Income taxation, of course, will change depending on whether you are an employee or a freelance. Let's see more in detail the differences. Case number 1. If you are an employee, your salary in Italy is subject to IRPEF, Italy's progressive income tax, plus regional and municipal surcharges. Even if your company continues to pay you in dollars, someone, either you, your employer, or an employer of record, will need to manage Italian payroll withholdings. Otherwise, you may need to reconcile things yourself when you file your annual return. Case number 2. If you are a freelancer or independent contractor. In this case, you may use the simplified regime forfettario, where the taxable base is calculated using a fixed cost coefficient. You then pay a substitute tax of either 5 or 15% plus the mandatory INPS social security contributions, which are around 26% in 2025. A note, the INPS is the Istituto Nazionale della Previdenza Sociale, so the Italian National Social Security Agency. However, if your revenue exceeds 85,000 euro, or if you are excluded by the regime forfettario for any other specific rule, you move into ordinary accounting and the standard progressive IRPEF system. At this point, I'm sure that a very important question might be crossing your mind. How to avoid double taxation between US and Italy. Indeed, even if living abroad, the US citizens must file every year a US tax return. The good news here is that the US-Italy tax treaty and domestic rules help you prevent double taxation. Let's see how. In the US, typically you'll have to rely on either the foreign earned income exclusion, which lets you exclude a part of your foreign earned salary on your US tax return, or the foreign tax credit, which gives you credit for taxes paid in Italy against your US tax liability. On the Italian side instead, things become slightly more complex. Indeed, you will have to coordinate the timing, the exchange rates, and withholding on both sides. This is why it's always suggested to refer to a cross-border tax advisor in this case. And with this, I'd say that we've covered all the key main aspects of this topic. Now, before leaving you, let's briefly cover some frequently asked questions on the topic. Question number 1. Can I just come on a tourist stamp, stay 3 months and work remotely quietly? Short answer, not legally. Tourists, so 90 days in 180 status, is strictly for tourism, family visits or short business meetings, and working is expressly not allowed by the Italian government under this visa. Question number 2. Do I still have to apply for a residence permit within 8 days? Yes. If you enter Italy with a long stay visa, like the digital Nomad Visa or the self-employment type D visa, you're required to apply for your permesso di soggiorno within 8 working days. Skipping this step means you're technically out of status, even if your visa is valid. Question number 3. If I stay under 183 days, am I safe from Italian taxes? Not necessarily. If Italy becomes your center of vital interest, so for example, your permanent home, your family ties, or main economic base, you could be treated as an Italian tax resident even if you clock fewer than 183 days. Question number 4. Can my US employer just pay me in the US? Sometimes yes, but there are risks. If you're physically in Italy working, your presence might create Italy payroll registration obligations for your employer. And in some cases, it may even trigger permanent establishment risks, especially if you're signing contracts or representing the business locally. Question number 5. I'm US-based. What about Social Security? This is an important topic. The US and Italy have a totalization agreement, which prevents you from paying into both systems at once. In many cases, if you're a US citizen working in Italy for a US employee, you can stay under US Social Security by getting a certificate of coverage from the SSA. However, if you're freelancing under a partita IVA, you'll generally pay into the Italian system, so the INPS. Question number 6. Do you need an Italian bank account? Not strictly for the work, but very likely necessary if you stay long-term for things like utilities, rent, or enrolling in the health system. And some US employers may also prefer to pay you via an Italian account if you're on a local payroll. And last, question number 7. Can I use the elective residence visa to keep working? The elective residence visa is specifically designed for retirees or financially independent people who live off passive income and does not allow any work activity. If your goal is to actively work for a US employer or client, this visa isn't the right fit. And with that, I would say that it's really all for today, guys. I know that this topic may seem tricky, and it could be if you're not well prepared. That's exactly why we decided to create this guide for you. Of course, here's a little disclaimer for you. Please keep in mind that this guide is pure information, not legal or tax advice. For your specific case, and before booking your one-way ticket, make sure to speak with an Italian immigration attorney and a cross-border tax professional. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you like this content, don't forget to like it, share it, or just comment it with a friend. And of course, if you have any question, make sure to drop them in the comments. Ciao, alla prossima!